So now we'll get back into losing weight, keeping the weight off, decreasing our risk for overweight and obesity. So different cancer diets, I often get asked, and there's a plethora of information out there about cancer diets. So I'm not really going to completely dive into these diets. I just want to touch on them because I know people have heard on them, and if you have questions about them at the end, please feel free to ask, and I'm happy to answer them. So the alkaline versus acidic diet is a common one that I hear about. Anti-inflammatory, raw or juicing, macrobiotic, and Mediterranean. There's a lot of other fad diets out there. Those are just some common ones that I often hear about. And we generally don't really recommend diets. The only thing good about all these diets here is that they emphasize plant foods, and we're going to be talking about that a lot, how important plant foods are. So that would really be the only good thing about all these diets, is emphasizing that type of lifestyle. So as we think about diets, we really want to get away from that short-term diet mind frame and get into more of a lifestyle change. This isn't something you're going to do for 10 days or 4 weeks. It's something that should be incorporated into your lifestyle, because short-term diets, not only do they not always last, but they don't really change our cancer risk. If we do a diet for 10 weeks, that's not really going to have any effect on our risk. It's our whole eating pattern and what we're doing day after day, month after month, year after year, that provides us the biggest protection against different cancers. So that's why I emphasize this lifestyle mind frame versus a diet. So just some tips for lifestyle advice. Choosing foods as close to their natural state as possible. That's probably one of the number one things. So instead of an apple-flavored granola bar, you're choosing the whole apple. Or instead of apple juice or applesauce, you're choosing that whole apple. Think about something that has been grown outside in its natural state, not really processed, and that's what you want to be consuming the most of. And again, these plant foods, and I'm going to keep talking about plant foods because we're seeing so much research on how healthy these plant foods are. Your fruits, your vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. These are what your diet should be mostly composed of. And then being active and planning your meals. So these are just some lifestyle advice tips. Again, that eating pattern is more predictive of overall health than specific nutrients. We always get asked what superfoods are in right now and what prevents cancer, what nutrients prevent cancer, but it's really your eating pattern. I can't emphasize that enough. That is indicative of your cancer risk. Regularly choosing those nutrient-dense foods, those fruits and vegetables, avoiding sugary food and drinks. We're seeing that added sugar in the diet. I'm not saying that sugar causes cancer, because I know that's a common thought, but excessive added sugar in the diet can be indirectly linked to increasing our risk for cancer. And our number one culprit is sugary beverages. So your sodas, your sweet teas, juices, those flavored coffee drinks, all those types of things have the most sugar that we're seeing in our diet. So kind of avoiding those. Limiting calorie-dense food, baked goods, desserts, chips, fatty meats, those are things that we really want to limit. They don't have much nutrients. They just provide us excess calories. And watching portion sizes. To lose weight, you have to reduce portion sizes. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts. You got to eat less to lose weight. But you got to watch what you eat. So we want to still feel full and feel satisfied, so we can eat more volume of, again, these plant foods. Those will fill us up versus these limited calorie-dense foods that make us more hungry and just give us lots of calories. So the things you should be eating, again, the plant-based foods, and these are just some examples here of what, obviously there's lots and lots of different fruits and vegetables and whole grains to kind of eat, nuts and seeds, those types of things. And the reason we also recommend plant-based foods, not only are they good for maintaining our weight or losing weight, they also have these nutrients called phytochemicals. And they're basically, phytochemicals is plant chemicals. And these are just some examples here, but phytochemicals give plants their distinct smell, color, their look. So that red in a tomato or the purple in eggplant, that comes from its phytochemicals. And when plants grow outside, they have to protect themselves from the environment and from pests, so they build up these phytochemicals. And when we ingest them, we get all these benefits. We're seeing that these phytochemicals can decrease our risk of cancer, that there's just things that they do in the body that really protect our cells. I don't know if you've heard, there's a lot of things out there that talk about how we all kind of have different cancer cells in our bodies. It's just whether they actually progress to actually being a tumor. And these nutrients, these phytochemicals, can help deter those cells from actually becoming cancerous, is what we're seeing in a lot of preliminary studies. So another reason that we recommend these plant foods. And these are just some examples. If you've heard of carotenoids, the lycopene in tomatoes, that one gets a lot of buzz about prostate health. Indoles, polyphenols, those types of, I know they're weird sciencey names, and there's about thousands of them out there. And you can get lots of phytochemicals in even just one serving of vegetables. And you want to get these nutrients from whole foods and not from supplements. So we'd rather you eat and use garlic in your cooking versus taking a garlic supplement, because we're just not sure if those supplements have any benefit to us, and we're not sure if they could be harmful. So we recommend whole foods versus supplements. So just different lifestyle interventions for decreasing calories in our diet, for keeping that weight off, choosing lean meats, skinless turkey, fish, extra lean ground beef, pork loin. Those are just some examples of leaner meats. And we recommend that you eat no more than 18 ounces of red meat per week. And red meat is beef, pork, and I emphasize the pork because a lot of people think that's white meat, but it's not, it's red meat, and lamb. And this recommendation comes, again, from the AICR because they're saying above 18 ounces increases your risk for colorectal cancer. So we really want to keep that down as little as possible. Low-fat dairy, eggs, and avoiding all processed meat. Again, the AICR, we're seeing from studies that processed meat can be carcinogenic. So decreasing, there's really no recommendation for the amount to have because we just don't know at what level it raises your risk. So we recommend that you avoid as much as possible those foods, bacon, sausage, bologna, deli meats, even turkey breasts. I know a lot of times that's touted as healthy, but any kind of lunch meat really should be avoided. And these are just kind of just for your reference to give you an idea of what types of meats are higher in fat, lower in fat, higher in calories, lower in calories, just so you have an idea of when you're going to the grocery store what cuts of meat you might want to look for when you're buying them. There's some new facts on fat. We're seeing now that saturated fat may not increase our risk for heart disease like once thought, but I always emphasize that not as bad for you does not equate to good for you. So it's not something we can just throw our arms up and say, all right, saturated fat's not as bad, I'm just going to eat as much as I want, because that's not necessarily the case. It might not be as bad, but we still need to limit it. So there's not enough evidence right now to support liberalization of saturated fats. And you get saturated fat mostly from animal products, so fatty meats, full-fat dairy, cheeses, things like that. So continue to eat them in moderation. Fats provide more calorie per gram than protein and carbohydrates. So that's why it's important to watch your portion size. Because really when it comes down to losing weight and keeping the weight off, it's about your calorie intake. So fats are more calorically dense versus other types of food. So that's why we recommend you limit them. So these are just some ideas, just so you have in your head how many calories different fats are. So most of your oils are right around 120 calories per tablespoon. So when you're sauteing vegetables or cooking meat, just keep that in mind. I highly recommend you get out some measuring spoons, some measuring cups, so you know. It's really, really hard. I don't even trust myself to estimate a dollop of oil or whatever it might be because it's so hard to estimate it just looking. So I always get out my tablespoon or my teaspoon and use that. So I really encourage you to do the same. Keep them close by around your house so you can access them easily. Butters, nut butters, again, those are pretty calorically dense. Avocados, while they're very healthy, lots of good nutrients, they're still calorically dense. So just watch your portion sizes. Instead of eating a whole avocado for a snack, maybe eat a quarter or a half an avocado.